Does it make sense to have the J-11B being added to 13.7 in BR? Well, let's try to talk a little bit about it and try to come with a conclusion. Guys, the J-11B, as you saw probably in my update video, was updated in the dev server of today, and it actually has a new BR, 13.7, and there is a little bit of a controversy behind this. People are complaining about it or praising about it. So let's talk a little bit about it and try to see if it makes sense, right? Because this aircraft, guys, remember, is an upgrade over the J-11E. The main thing about this aircraft is that it is a fully kinda domestic Chinese aircraft, right? So everything technically is built in China. So it has many differences to the older J-11A and a general sense of what an Su-27 would be like, right? So let's try to list all the upgrades that this aircraft has. And then at the end of the video, we're going to talk about if it makes sense that this thing has the same BR as the J-11A or if it should have a 14.0 BR. Of course, remembering that it doesn't change too much. Having a 14.0 or 13.7 in BR doesn't change for the matchmaking too much, but the aircraft normally is a little bit different when you see a 14.0 in the game. So just to get that out of the way, right? So what are the upgrades of the aircraft? Well, let's start small. The first thing is technically the cockpit is a little bit different. It is an aircraft that is supposed to be modernized, although it is pretty much the same as a J-11A, but upgraded with domestic stuff. It is indeed an upgrade technically, right? So because of that, we do have a much improved cockpit in general that makes it up to be a little bit better in the simulator arena, right? So this is kind of a smaller thing, but still it does matter. The second upgrade that we see here is that the radar is changed. So instead of using basically an N001 for export, now we have the Type 1493, which is a much better radar. It has TWS plus. It has way more data link channels, so up to 8 in this case, and if you compare to the A model, it only has 1, so it means that it can guide technically 8 missiles to the target at the same time with TWS and a Fox 3, while the J-11A can only target one at a time. So it means that the R77 that the A uses, it is a little bit more limited, because once you actually shot the second missile, the first one will lose the data link channel and it will rely only on inertial navigation and the actual seeker head, right? So it's a little bit more reliable to get kills. It is a faster radar in general to get updates with TWS, with the TWS plus, and it has more range. So overall, it is a way better radar. Not an Electronics Canada Array one, but it's still way better than the N001, right? Remember, the 001 is basically a 1980s radar, right? This is a modernized pulse Doppler radar, so it's a lot different. The other change is that it has the WS-10 engine. So now, instead of using Russian engines, it actually uses Chinese-built engines, and it's not any engine. The engine that on the A variant is the normal AL31F, right? The normal Su-27 engine, which is kind of weak for the top tier ranks, right? The WS10 is more keen to the FM's versions of the AL31, right? So it's a much better engine, and it produces basically the same power, a little bit more depending on situation, a little bit less in the higher speeds, but in general the same speed as the Su-27 SM's one. So it means that it has basically the same performance as the Su-27 SM, okay? And the last change that they include here is obviously the new missiles. So instead of using R77s, R27s, R73s, uses the PL-8B, which is an amazing missile, and the PL-12, which is an amazing missile as well. And above that, he has also smart guided weapons for air to ground. So TV guided missiles, laser guided bombs, GPS guided glide bombs, and yeah, basically just an overall upgrade on that regard, together with a TV pod system, right? So it is better in every single way compared to the J11A, apart from some things, like for example the amount of flares in chef, and of course the mouse, which is basically the same as the J11A for now. Okay, some people are claiming that it should be different, but for now it is the same. So does it make sense that these aircraft are in the same BR? Well, yes and no at the same time. Why is that? Because if you compare to the J11A, yes, it doesn't make sense. You know, it should be a 14.0 if the J11A is a 13.7. But at the same time, if you compare to the Su-27SM, which is in the same BR, 13.7 as well, then it makes sense because it has pretty much the same performance. But even then, I mean, it will have less missiles and a different type of missile and a better radar with a different system overall for the aircraft itself. Even has some things that would be even better than the SM, like the MALS that the Su-27SM doesn't have, the radar, which is better, and the missiles arguably are better than the R-77, depending on the situation. For longer ranges, for example, the PL-12 is a better missile. So at the end of the day, guys, it's kind of hard to say, but overall, it would be a good idea that it would make sense to not have the J11B in the same BR as the J11A. But at the same time, is it a big enough update that it should compare to the 14.0s that we have in the game? Well, maybe not as well, because if you take a look on the Su-30SM, if you take a look on the F-15E, the Eurofighter, and the Rafale, the J-11B is not really on par with those. Of course, it can fight them, and it will be an amazing aircraft, but it's far from being a contender of being the best aircraft in the game like those are, right? So it's kind of problematic. We have a BR compression problem, as always, in War Thunder. It's getting, I mean, fix it over time, I would say, but at the end of the day, it's still there in some areas or not to the game, you know, like it is here a little bit, and you can see it because technically the J11B should be in a BR in between the 13.7 and in the 14.0s, but we don't have that. So maybe if every single aircraft that is at 14.0 right now would be a 14.3, for example, then something like the J11B would definitely be a 14.0. So it's complicated, right? Do I agree or not with this change? I gotta be honest, I think it's better to leave it like this and then add a proper 14.0 later than to add this thing at a 14.0 BR and then call it a day and take a long time to add another Chinese aircraft that it will be a really a good 14.0. So it's better to do this than just to add the 14.0 and, you know, be done with it, which is something that they might actually do because they're probably fixing everybody to have 14.0s before adding more 14.0s for the countries that already have 14.0s. So for example, now that Japan and China will not have a 14.0, it means that in one of the next patches we will see one. So for that reason, I can kind of see that it would be a better idea to have it 13.7 just to incentivize Gaijin to actually add a proper 14.0 aircraft for the Chinese tech tree, just like we need one as the Japanese tech tree, right? So yeah, and for the Swedish as well, by the way. I mean, we have that for the F-18 there. I don't know, but yeah, these two nations probably will be the ones that are in the most dire need of a 14.0 right now, especially Japan, right? So yeah, this is my opinion. You can leave it yours in the comments if you agree or not with the J11B. I'm still on the fence, but this is mine, okay? So don't get me wrong, of course. But yeah, let me know in the comments yours, and I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys, see ya.